So I have to make the joke that every single day is something tragic in the Thunder's history, whether it's ESPN tweeting out like a couple weeks ago, oh, this many years ago today was the last game that James Harden, Kevin Durant, and Russell Westbrook ever played together as members of the Oklahoma City Thunder, whether it's constant reminders every single year of Klay Thompson going ballistic in Game 6, preventing the Thunder from moving on to the NBA Finals, helping the Warriors erase a 3-1 deficit against the Thunder in 2016, or whether it is what was to come after that. As you're seeing this video, and as I'm recording it, currently 3 a.m. in the morning is exactly when I decided would be the best time to record this video. It is the 5-year anniversary, July 4th of 2021, of Kevin Durant leaving the Thunder. And more importantly, Kevin Durant joining the Golden State Warriors in what would become a dynasty, what would become an unstoppable team. Despite a couple teams, shout out to the 2018 Rockets, getting kind of close, no one was really ever able to stop that team. The only thing that ever stopped them from winning a ring was in 2019 when Kevin Durant and Klay Thompson both went down. And if they both had been healthy, who knows, they may have three-peated there. And it was just an unstoppable team. They added DeMarcus Cousins for that 2019 year too, which everyone went crazy about, although it didn't end up impacting anything really. It was one of the most monumental moments in modern NBA history because a lot of people, and me included, didn't think it was actually going to happen. I remember there was a Instagram post, I think it was from Bleacher Report, when the reports first came out that Kevin Durant could consider joining the Warriors in the offseason. It was before the playoffs had even started, I believe. It was still in the regular season, and there was this like graphic of like KD, Klay, Steph, Draymond, like whoever else on the roster. I think Iguodala was the other guy in the graphic, and it showed them in Warriors uniforms, and it was photoshopped, of course, because at that point KD had made no commitment, and he was still playing for the Thunder. And everyone saw it, and everyone was like, oh, this would ruin basketball. There's no way this happens. KD would never do that. And that was the same sentiment I shared. As a Thunder fan, at this point, 16 years old, 5 years ago, I'm 21 now, I was hopelessly optimistic that Kevin Durant was going to stay with the Thunder. When it came down to his free agency decision, there were three teams that he was really deciding between. Some people at some point had thought he was going to consider the Wizards just because he's from kind of the DC area. But by the time he narrowed it down to his last three, and on the eve of Kevin Durant making his big decision, because he said, or there was some report that he was going to make his decision on July 4th, there were three teams it came down to. It was the Oklahoma City Thunder, the team he was drafted by the Supersonics that turned into the Thunder, the team he had been with his whole career. There was the Boston Celtics, which a lot of people don't remember as another team that was in there, and then, of course, the Golden State Warriors. Those were the three teams. I'm a Thunder fan, of course, and I, like I said, was hopelessly optimistic that Kevin Durant was going to come back, and I had a really good feeling. Because there was also reports out there that Al Horford was going to join the Thunder if Kevin Durant had told him he was going to come with. So if Kevin Durant and Al Horford had joined the Thunder and we ran it back, I still to this day believe if Kevin Durant stayed, even if it was just for one more season, like he signed like a 1-and-1 type deal, if he had stayed for one more year, we win the championship that next year. I'm still to this day convinced. I'm biased 100%. And am I just trying to pain myself by making these fake memories of a championship that we could have won? Yeah, a little bit. But I think it would have happened. And so I was thinking to myself, there's no way KD leaves for Golden State. There's no way. Boston to me was a little bit more believable just because he didn't lose to them, and because just the idea of Kevin Durant on that Warriors team, while feeling very normal now, back then, if you didn't follow the NBA, everyone was terrified. And I wasn't on NBA Twitter at that point at all. I was just I followed like Woj on my personal account. I followed like the Players Tribune because that's where Kevin Durant's article came out. I followed like Shams wasn't even big at that point. I just followed all the NBA reporters, like ESPN and Bleacher Report and stuff like that as well. So that was how I got all my NBA news, and I just looked through the comment sections of those tweets to figure out people's reactions after it happened, and leading up to it, no one believed it was going to be Golden State. Nobody. Including me, and including my roommate, who I've mentioned a couple of times on this channel, who is a Boston Celtics fan. Shout to Nick. He and I made this kind of like pact, like the night before, where we're like, okay, if he goes to Boston, cool. If he decides to stay in Oklahoma City, he'll be cool. As long as it's not Golden State. And I remember texting him that night before I went to sleep, leading up to the day where Kevin Durant was going to make his decision. I said, all right, bro, we'll be good as long as it's not Golden State. I wake up the morning of July 4th and nothing's out. I haven't seen anything yet, and I'm just anxious because there was no report as to when exactly this Players Tribune article was going to come out, and there was no indication of, outside of what the article was going to be, of which team he was going to go to. It wasn't like now where it's like leading up to the decision. It was like, he's strongly leaning this way, he's strongly leaning that way. At this point, it was all up in the air. No one really knew what he was going to do. And I remember I was eating breakfast, checking my phone. I was just continuously looking at my phone, and a notification pops up from, I think it was the Players Tribune, and it says, my next chapter. And off the bat, that probably should have been a red flag to me, because who says my next chapter when talking about staying with the team that he's played with his whole career? Like, it wouldn't make sense. He would probably call it something like I'm home or something like that. But going into the article, I frantically pushed my food out of the way, opened up my phone, and was just clicked on it, and I just found myself scrolling because I just wanted to get to the bottom, because I knew he was going to do some big paragraph, and he did at the beginning. If you look at the article, and I scrolled all the way down to the bottom, and I missed the part where it said I'm joining the Golden State Warriors, and I got to the bottom, and it was like, I want to thank my teammates. I want to thank Sam Presti. I want to thank the fans. It's been so good being with y'all, and my heart just plummeted. As a 16-year-old, this was the worst thing that had ever happened to me. Seeing Kevin Durant leave meant that the Thunder weren't going to be title contenders anymore. And I was always a Westbrook guy. Westbrook, I've said it before, has always been my favorite player. I never even had a Kevin Durant jersey, so I had nothing to even burn to let out my anger or whatever a 16-year-old me would have done. But at that point, I didn't know what team he was joining. All I knew he wasn't the Thunder. So immediately, the Thunder crossed off that list. So I scroll back up, and I see Golden State Warriors. And my heart went from plummeting to falling through the floor into the Earth's core and melting. I just didn't think it was possible. It was crazy. It was one of the craziest days, still to this day, one of the craziest days of being an NBA fan ever. It was ridiculous. And I remember the whole world melting down, oh my God. Because at this point I watched those talking head shows or whatever on the TV. And I only paid attention to the big sports media names and stuff. I was nowhere near the level of interconnected with the NBA that I am now. And so I was just in awe. I didn't know what to do. And so I went back to bed. I said, I'm going to take a nap real quick. My brother, he's like, you okay? And I was like, no. So I took a nap. And when I woke up from the nap, it was I was like, oh, was I dreaming? No, everything still sucks. Okay, cool. Went about my day, as you have to do. You can't just end your day because a basketball player doesn't want to play for your team. And that was my 4th of July. Funnily enough, I actually remember saying to my dad that, I said, Russell Westbrook, he's going to average a triple-double this year because of having no Kevin Durant. I swear to you, I actually did say that. I'm not just making something up. I actually said on that day, Russell Westbrook's going to average a triple-double next year. And I don't know if I ever mentioned the MVP thing, but I know I mentioned that first part. So maybe I did think he was going to be MVP. He was my favorite player, so I wouldn't have been surprised. But that just shows you how much I believed in Russ. And Russ re-upped with us soon after that, which was also really cool to see. Like I said, favorite player of all time. So if we had lost Kevin Durant and then Russ asked for a trade or something right after that, it would have been the worst week of my life up to that point. So that's how it was for me back then. And I kind of want to provide some perspective on it now because I think that's interesting to show growth. Back then, it was nowhere near the world-ending event it seemed to me at the time. Of course, everyone thought, it made the Warriors unstoppable. I don't think anyone seriously thought a team was going to beat the Warriors. I rooted for the Cavs hard in 2016 because I really like LeBron and because the Warriors obviously beat us, so I wasn't rooting for them that much. And then when, of course, they got Kevin Durant, I was rooting for every single team to beat them, including the Cavaliers, but I really didn't think the Cavs stood a chance. I was pushing for them, of course, I was salty. So, the first NBA Finals afterwards, I guarantee you, people asked me, oh, who do you think is going to win the Finals? And I was like, oh, I got Cavs in 7 or something like that. They weren't going to win. That Cavs team was really good, but the Warriors were just unstoppable. And looking back on it now, yeah, everyone was right about that one thing, that it was going to be the Warriors and no one could really stop them. But, you know, it was fun for a little bit to be kind of hopelessly, once again, optimistic that somehow a different team was going to end up in the finals outside of the West, or that someone would come out of the East, whether it was LeBron and the Cavs or some other team comes up to face destiny and takes down the Warriors. It just didn't happen up until Kevin Durant got hurt and Klay Thompson got hurt in 2019, and then the team dissipated. And looking back, that was definitely like, that's definitely a team I'll like tell my kids about when I'm talking about basketball with them. Like, I've never seen a team just look more dominant than that. Like even the 73-9 Warriors, like more dominant than those guys, these Kevin Durant Warriors teams were. And so now on the 5-year anniversary of this big monumental NBA moment and moment for Thunder fans like me, where do I stand on it? Something people have asked me a million times is, do I hate Kevin Durant? Do I still hate Kevin Durant for this decision? Stuff like that. And in short, the answer is no. It's a basketball decision. Like, it's not that big of a deal that I'm going to hate a person forever because of that. I don't believe in like hating people because of like basketball stuff. It just doesn't make sense to me. And so no, I don't hate Kevin Durant. Obviously would have loved to see him play for the Thunder, go and win a ring with Russ, because like I said, I think they could have done it. And I would have even preferred if he went to Boston rather than going to play for Golden State, the team that just beat us, and ultimately making the NBA kind of predictable for the next couple seasons. But I'm not going to blame a guy for wanting to go play with Steph Curry and living in California. Like, I'm nowhere near his basketball talent, and I would have loved to do that as well. So, not as big of a heartbreaking moment now, looking back on it 5 years later, as it was for 16-year-old me. But I think it's kind of fun to look back, because like I said, that moment shifted the NBA. We see it now as like, okay, this happened, but it's over now. But then people are like, oh my God, like this could, like if Kevin Durant stays for a long time, this could be like 5, 6, 7 championship type stuff, like with the LeBron and the Miami Heat thing, like not 1, not 2, like a billion championships for that Warriors team, because they were just coming off a 73-9 season. And they added a top 5, top 3, maybe even top 2 player in the NBA in Kevin Durant. That's ridiculous. That's crazy. I don't know if we'll quite ever see anything like that again. It was kind of just a perfect storm with the Warriors having drafted all their talent and just having the right amount of cap space. It was a perfect storm, and ultimately it happened 5 years ago today. So happy anniversary. We could also go into stuff about like Westbrook posting like the cupcakes or whatever. We won't go into all that right now. You guys have heard that before. I just wanted to give my perspective on it as a Thunder fan, that a lot of people are probably curious as to what I think about it or what my like reaction was to all that. Because if you're a Thunder fan, I guarantee you know exactly where you were. And even if you're not a Thunder fan, let me know in the comment section below, if you've made it to this point in the video, where you were, what you remember doing, or what was your immediate reaction to the Kevin Durant news, joining the Warriors. How'd you feel? Did you think the NBA was ruined like a lot of people, me included, did? Let me know all that in the comment section below. I appreciate you guys watching and making it this far. Hope you have a happy Independence Day if you're in America, and if you're not, hope you have a happy 4th of July. Appreciate you guys watching this video. I'll see you guys later. Real one, say it back.